To tell us that, you know, there's a whole different world out there, psychedelics that explore the unconscious. I mean, the human being pretty much left to his own devices, from Plato to Freud to Jung, were like blind men trying to feel an elephant, you know. You feel an elephant's leg, you feel an elephant's tail, you feel the texture of his skin, you feel, you know, his tusks, and you come up with all sorts of theories, but you're never able to see the entire elephant, because there are 100 scientists, 100 philosophers, 100 artists who are blindfolded, and they can't really see the entire elephant as an observer can. And Terence McKenna's point was that when you drop in, I mean, you know, Timothy Leary said that, you know, turn off, tune in, drop out. The point is that it's when you take psychedelics and you enter the psychedelic world, or, you know, through shamanistic ritual or whatever you want, when you enter that world, you're easily having kind of an out-of-body experience. And when you have an out-of-body experience, you're kind of able to see things in a larger scale from up above, and you begin to laugh at hundreds of philosophers and scientists who've been vainly trying to figure out what the elephant was. They've been able to describe the skin to, you know, a millimeter. They've been able to describe how large he is. They've been able to describe his pointed tusks. But they've never seen him. So, you know, this is a huge concept that modern humans should make, and it just leads to a lot of nonsense coming from philosophers and warnings from scientists, and a lot of people. I think there are millions in the 21st century that are engaged in this task of, you know, showing the way scientifically or philosophically or psychologically. But they're never able to show you anything, because you can read 1,000 books, but those are just words that describe something in its essence, something that you must feel and experience yourself. Now that is completely different when you feel and, you know, feel it. It's, as Terence McKenna says, having sex for the first time. I mean, you know, how can you tell anybody about, you know, how disgusting it is? It's all the fluids and organic nature, and dogs do it. You can see a dog mounting another female or licking private areas that, you know, frankly seem disgusting in a non-erotic state. And when the human enters an erotic state, suddenly all these disgusting things appear sexy. And this is something very different for someone who's never entered an erotic stage of the mind. And this is what we're trying to say, is that psychedelics enhance your erotic stage to experience the world through eros, through feelings, passion, and not through pathos, you know. So this is a big concept to differentiate pathos versus eros. And most people are never able to make the connection and examine the world in black or white, gay rights or gay marriage, or, you know, get a physical piece of the pie, but holding on to something as if it's a medal or socially empowering. And that's what it's really all about, social empowerment. You know, you have immigrants who watch TV and they want the life Europeans lead or Americans lead, and they're on the next boat over the waters, braving the dangers of death and defying the physical odds to make it to the land of milk and honey. It's because they've been seduced by the physicality of it all. The West has failed in giving them a psychedelic option. Of course, I don't blame the West. It's not up to any particular kind of people to give another set of people ideas. Ideas should flow. But as Terence McKenna says, that Africa and Asia are kind of poor, especially Africa, in terms of psychedelic plants. Africa being the cradle of human civilization, as said, and but it's now vast areas of the Sahara Desert, and it's expanding rapidly, and the flora and fauna are shrinking due to human pressures, or even global warming, or 2,000-year-old climatic changes that are still happening. And when you examine Africa in that stage, people have no recourse to a mental psychedelic life, while a person in Switzerland walking the Alps is going to see some multicolored, beautiful mushrooms growing on some cow dung or on the grasslands, and he can joyfully pick them and eat them and have a psychedelic experience, causing him to awaken even more and becoming more and more mindful and writing more intelligent things, taking humanity forward metaphysically. And it's no wonder, no small surprise that so many of our philosophers and scientists and great inventors like Dr. Hoffman of the LSD fame came from Switzerland with its temperate. Nietzsche was also a big admirer of Switzerland's temperate climate. And Africa and Asia with their tropical and desert-type environments, really nothing grows there. Sure, in the Middle East you have a few psychedelic drugs that, in Israel, on Mount Sinai, they found some psychedelic herbs growing. I don't know what they are, but probably something like mescaline, and a lot of the prophets going up the mountains were taking drugs, and that's an Israeli hypothesis, and I kind of support that. I do believe that a lot of the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran were psychedelically inspired. And these prophets were shamans, and, something that the South Americans and the North American Indians already had, and were doing it on a daily basis. But somebody in the Middle East went and took drugs and became a prophet. And then hence the global religions and all this thing with people taking themselves too seriously and establishing order and all sorts of things that resulted from it, and holy war and giant clash of egos. Mine is bigger than yours, or yours is smellier than mine. I got the better one. I got the latest one, and I will kill you for that. So we saw a lot of infantilism coming out of the Middle East, spreading into Europe, and causing the advent of the Dark Ages. It's nothing to be proud of what happened in Europe, but it certainly was better than remaining savage tribes. I don't even think that Terence McKenna would really want the archaic revival to include cannibalism of the Pygmies, or some obscure island flesh-eating tribe. So yes, I do believe that the world headed in a particular direction. Whitehead would logically justify it as part of the process. I mean, we wouldn't be here without all the modern technology that developed through Christianity's influence in Europe, and the pastoral existence, and the bourgeois class division, explosions and the revolutions and Hitler and the Germans, and, you know, if all of them hadn't happened, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have this technology to have the computer as a drug, as Terence McKenna would say, that you can't swallow. The computer has taken over our lives. It's become part of it, from your smartphone to, your smartwatch. And humanity's hurtling towards a direction that we don't know where it's going, but I think it's all part of the process, that everything led to another thread, and that thread led to this thread that we're in currently. So, if somebody asked me that, is there a better existence for us? I'd say no. I'd say this is possibly the best or the only situation, even allowing quantum physics to exist, to be in. Because this is the sensuous, we're experiencing this one, we have the option to be sensual, art does exist, and as long as art exists on this planet and is given a paramount position, we're in a pretty good shape. And, as I hear the bourgeois paying millions of dollars for paintings, they're trying to grab on. They're trying to hold on to that, art, the existence of ecstasy, of transcendence, because that bourgeois millionaire who just paid $25 million for that painting knows that he's bourgeois at the end of the day. And the artist that he's taking it from, by paying him $25 million, is a reaffirmation of his desire to escape from the bourgeois class. I used to be very against the bourgeois classes, but as I realized that even the bourgeois, they are trapped in their karmic cycle. Nobody really wants to be in the situation that they're in. And it reminds me of that saying that don't really think that you'd be better off in the other man's shoes. You know, if you see that guy, do you really want to be him? He might have all the girls, he might have all the money, but would you really want to be in his shoes? And that's a really deep question. If you go into his life, you find out he's bankrupt, he's divorcing him, and he's hemorrhaging a lot of money, he might have cancer, and you switch shoes with this guy and you're like, hey, this didn't turn out to be the better deal. At least I had my life ahead of me. So, it's all easy to exist, and it reminds me of the African immigrant, the Asiatic immigrant, who's looking for that better life somewhere else, not in his homeland. Sure, it appears dirty and polluted, and, what are you going to do about it? The point is to make it a better place. The lack of ideas in Asia and Africa lead to the conclusion in many people's minds that the only possibility of a good life is in the West. And it might be true physically looking at it, but we have a whole psychedelic universe, Not only are the Asians and Africans poor in physical terms, but with access to metaphysical worlds and resources, as we discussed, that they don't really have those drugs growing over here. And even if they do, they're highly illegal. And, it's a paradox that there's unlimited metaphysical space out there for billions and gazillions of humans to inhabit and have their own virtual reality or personal worlds and personal satisfaction, leading to physical growth, as we saw with the Europeans. Terence McKenna says that the intelligent Africans took the psychedelic drugs and kind of migrated outwards, out of Africa towards Europe in, the Neanderthal times, or, the advent of the Homo sapien times, which is something like 50,000 to 150,000 years. So that's the kind of thinking over there, and I guess the dumb ones stay behind. And life is hard. Nature is cruel. It doesn't give too many second chances. We have this life, and if you're not really frank and brutal with ourselves, we're going to pass it by. This life will go by in milliseconds, and you won't even realize it. You're too old to do anything. It's a tragedy of life. The Hindus believe that you might have a shot again at it through reincarnation, but all bets are off at what kind of animal you're going to be when you come back. So this is the best time, best shot that you have. You're alive, you're okay, and this is it. This is the time to seize, as the Romans would say, carpe diem, or carpe octem, or carpe LSD. Whichever way you look at it, however way you want to get there, it is important to start thinking, if not actively, then at least looking at other possibilities. People really cannot think beyond material access and material goods, and this is part of the investment banking lure. And one of the reasons why we hate bankers so much is because they know our weakness. But guess what? They're also human beings fulfilling a task, a gap, a need in society. If there was no need of capitalism, it wouldn't exist, and the bankers wouldn't be there. We blame the Jews, and we tell them that Occupy Wall Street, it's all those Jewish bankers out there, and it's very easy to point fingers at somebody else, the other, and that's part of your self and psyche also, that they're the other, the nasty other, the evil other, the African, the Jew. These are parts of you which you don't like, and that causes you to hate them, and that can lead to a lot of unfortunate consequences. But unfortunately or fortunately, they're part of you. They're your own manifestations, and that is what humanity is. They're coming in different colors and sizes, but it's the same primordial mass in different versions of you. There's a conniving you, there's an angry you, there's a dumb you, there's a happy you, there's a banking you, and you don't like a lot of these aspects, and you look at these people, and that's how you're able to dislike them. But to be free of these kind of emotions, you have to take a higher view, a transcendent, ascendant view. It's all too easy to go animal or egoistically after somebody. Lebenslaw, that's my space. Hello, you can't be here. And it's all fine and dandy, but that was in the animal kingdom, and sure, we're animals and I exist, and I agree that they should exist, but there is a lot more than meets the eye. I want there to be imagination. There shouldn't be people thinking that this is it. If we fight it out with each other, then we have reached nirvana, paradise. If we annihilate the other guy, annihilation is not going to lead to happiness. It's only going to lead to more guilt. Look at the Germans. They're still feeling guilty about it all. Be it right or wrong, they're still very guilty in their hearts, and it's going to take them generations to get over it. Annihilation is never the answer. It's a very physical, immediate answer. But it's not going to take you anywhere. It's going to make you into a smaller person with a big animal ego. If you lose your ego, you will be able to teach people how to live a better life, how to behave better, and avoid these kind of conflicts. And conflict reduction is all about ego reduction. And ego reduction is all about seeing the bigger picture of how small you are. If you examine planet Earth, you look outside in the galaxies, you're tiny. You look outside the Milky Way galaxy, you're nobody. Trillions of light years away, I mean, you don't even figure on even the tiniest measurement scale. And on this planet Earth, we have these egoistical, infantile conflicts, pretty much of our own doing. I do believe that Africans and Asians should take personal responsibility also in uplifting themselves and taking care of themselves in a loving way with each other. We see a lot of conflict within Asia and Africa with Asians killing Asians, Arabs killing Arabs, Africans killing Africans. This is, destruction of the tribe or of no love, manifestation of a complete demise of love between a particular race. And of course, don't expect any favors when you immigrate in numbers to another species, which is going to feel hostile or hostility towards you. And this is expected. But we can avoid all these things if we apply some mind to it. If a lot of people have awakening of the psychedelic existence, of, that there is more space. And physically, yes, we will do it. And Terence McKenna's greatest endeavor for mankind was to get to space. Manned space colonies. I mean, imagine how much fun it would be to drop acid or mushrooms on the moon, on Mars, on Venus, watching, on Jupiter, watching the Europa moon go by, with tornadoes and sunstorms and, ice storms, billions of kilometers wide, and that would be awesome. And it would increase our mind's potential, IQ, by hundreds of points. I mean, if an intelligent guy on Earth is 200, I think the generations that we breed in space would be in the thousands or something. Maybe 2,000 would be a normal one, because so much problem solving would have already happened in the mind. Genetically, we would be born with it. Solving astronomical questions, equations, and that is the possibility that we should be looking to. And unfortunately, we're devoting our lives and our resources in squabbling over petty treasures and petty amounts of land, and a lot of good could be done if the humankind developed a passion for the space, for the spaces that lie beyond, gazillions of light years of spaces that abound, and maybe in multiple universes. And I think the Europeans always like to be frank with each other. They have a frank attitude towards each other, unlike Americans who are all like, hi, how are you? Good, I'm great, yeah, but inside you're miserable, and no, I'm not good, and why are you bothering me? That kind of hypocrisy starts, as soon as you enter workplace or your shop or something like that. While Europeans kind of keep it more real, like keep conversation to a minimum, especially, light conversation or inconsequential, readings. And that's kind of more real, and you're able to approach each other in a more real manner and with more important points. So I do believe it will be a European awakening that will lead to a lot of advancements in space and new ideas, and that's one of the greatest things of Europe, and it has to pull itself out from this financial situation that it sees itself. And one of the reasons the Germans hated the 20th century was the loss of the Gemeinschaft, the community, versus the Gesellschaft, which was the commercial activity. And we now value each other in terms of commercial quantities and are able to measure each other by the bank balances of individuals and countries like Greece. If you talk to a Greek somewhere in the islands or somewhere in the hinterland, he's going to be like, what crisis? I mean, I have my cows, I have my vegetables, my backyard vegetable garden. I'm growing enough, I give to my neighbors, and, life is continuing. I get milk in the morning, I have a glorious view of the ocean, of the Mediterranean Sea. I'm actually doing great, and fuck those guys in Athens or the stock market, because this is life. You can take it as simple as you want, or completely link yourself with the stock market, and that influences your moods every day. Hi, the stock market went down. Oh, hi, the stock market went up. Yay, I'm in a good mood. That's really ridiculous. It's not going to take you anywhere, because a lot of people have a sneaking suspicion that it's all fixed. I mean, we find at FIFA, the football federation, and a lot of people were taking money, and a lot of the elections were fixed, and I don't know how much match fixing was going on, but even if it didn't happen or did happen, the point is human beings can be corrupted at any level. And as we found, Bill Clinton was ready to lie and to get away. And humans have fear, emotions, guilt, and they will lie to get out of that situation, or greed, envy, ambition, and they will lie to get there. So I wouldn't blame any human being for doing it. I wouldn't really be after him to be punished. But I would see this all in human terms, whereas when you make nature your friend, it's kind of a different experience. You have a dog at home, he doesn't really care about the stock market, he's happy to see you. And initially you thought you couldn't even feed that dog, how expensive his vaccines are, and dog food's so expensive. Wow, and you're just feeding him scraps from your table, your own food, you're giving him half your food. Pretty much you're losing weight, you're saving money, and your dog is healthy, and you're like, I don't know how I did it. But that's nature. It lives off scrap. It lives off dead bodies. It lives off all the shit that we create in this world. It takes it, recycles it, and makes it whole again. It gives you another chance. Every dead, organic, inorganic thing is eventually nature's recycling program, be it in thousands of years or, in 2 days. But everything is recycled. And humans have to realize and have the confidence that it's not only commercial activity that's going to give you peace of mind or reflects your true capabilities. When you harness nature, unfortunately we did harness nature, but in kind of an animal husbandry kind of way. Animals and food and our basic needs, but we didn't really look at the metaphysical connotations of nature. It gave us drugs, psychedelic drugs, ayahuasca, a lot of cactus, psychedelic cacti, too many to name, but we rejected them. We made them illegal, immoral, but we persisted with the degradation of nature and establishing our cities, our inorganic cities, and the inorganic nature of the stock market is also what is to blame for the human emotional condition that results from allying yourself with the inorganics too much. We are organic beings, and it would behoove us to be and remain as organic as possible, whether it be organic food, organic mushrooms. You know, nature has a lot of remedies. Medicines that we make inorganic are also available organically. If we are really serious about minimizing adverse effects of drugs, then we would try to keep them as organic as possible, yet studying and maintaining pharmacology, biochemistry with an organic touch to it. I think osteopathy as a medical field tried to correct some of the ills of the medical field that we find in America, but overall I'd say it has failed in the light of the drug companies, which are capitalistically driven and have to show profits and, you know, have shareholders and have the whole inorganic 9 yards. So humans, as much as they can, I don't advocate leaving the inorganic side of life, or computers or technology. I don't advocate leaving it, but trying to move as much as possible to the organic side of life is going to be much more fulfilling. For all those immigrants who cross the seas, braving the waters, paying tens of thousands of dollars that could have been used back home to improve livelihoods, start irrigation channels, to start, you know, seed money for some kind of a great project to better the nation. That would be thinking organically. However, inorganic thinking with advertisements and the seduction of maybe Coca-Cola and Nike, something like that leads these immigrants to leave their countries, be they war-torn. But why were they war-torn to begin with? You know, much of the Arab world is torn with strife, and I think the Arabs have to really ask themselves this uncomfortable question: what's wrong with their religion, their culture, their race, their people? I mean, it's okay to say, yeah, it's not me, it's him, it's them, they're bad guys, but we're the good guys. No, that doesn't really cut it. If you're facing a problem within your own ethnic group, and a major problem like ISIS, it's not a minor problem to brush under the carpet anymore and to ignore it, and all religions are equal, or all people are equal, hi, we're all one. No, that's not it. I mean, Islam with Judaism, with Christianity is pretty much divisive, and Judaism and Christianity pretty much loitered themselves, took away the powers from the rabbis, from the priests, from the church. The people took it back from them. There were major revolutions. Martin Luther, he was a brave man who faced the death penalty from the Catholic Church. He fought the Catholic Church and took away the power from the church. He said, to hell with all of you. The Jews did that with their rabbis. They had enough of the zealots, of the Essenes, you know, the Samaritans, and all those groups of powerful Jewish rabbis that exercised control and led to their, you know, destruction of the temple. So everybody learns from their mistakes of giving too much power to their religion. The Muslims haven't really realized that they have to take away the power from the mullahs, from the Islamic zealots, from the Quran. They have to take away the power from the mosque. They have to have the revolution of toppling the Sharia law, which is very tyrannical and promotes tyranny, fascism over a lot of people, and as we see in Asia and Africa. So until they modify their program, and all programs are meant to be modified, and God, I don't believe, was actually involved in any of these religions. It's so many philosophers of the last 200-300 years have been saying it's man's own ego reflected as God. Man killed God, is what Nietzsche said. And the Muslims have to realize that it's leading to catastrophe, a self-fulfilling, destructive prophecy of Armageddon, of the Day of Judgment, of Qiyamah. It's all over, and there are a lot of people hoping for that. That essentially makes it a cult of death. And there are many Jews waiting for the end of days, many Christians waiting for the end of days, and many Muslims trying to make the end of days happen. Armageddon. But thankfully, the vast majority of humanity is pro-life. They do want to give life a chance on this planet and not let their ego take a destructive course of a zero-sum game. This is where the human has to make his choice if he is going to let his shadow, his unconsciousness take over, and all the dark power that it has, and ascribe all these values to God, and try to execute, terminate, and destroy everything in its path. It becomes self-fulfilling. We all know that we have a dark side to ourselves. We're all afraid of our dark side. It exists, and millions or thousands at least of philosophers have written books, and millions of people believe that. They visit the psychologist, psychiatrist, and demand medicines for the feelings that they have. So the darkness is there. What we do with it, what we choose to do with it, is what happens in the end of the day, where we take a stand. Is the unconscious greater than us? Does it have darker, better powers than us? It has access to an unknown dimension? Yes. Should we let that unknown dimension rule us? No. We should use it to help us, to give us creative ideas. Art. Let it all out as art, not as hate, but as art. Do something good for humanity. Build a hospital. Take medical science further. Study. Become a doctor. Become something. An engineer, design something. Become a designer. Make and give people pleasure with your creations. The artist is sorely needed, that has a vision and is not afraid to say what he wants, to be free of society's shackles, through marriage, through governments, through taxes, through alimony, and a whole host of things that shackle you, least of all your parents, your religions, and your culture. Once you're truly free, you can say what you want, you're not afraid of consequences, you obviously have access to resources which are not threatened by your free speech, and even if they are, that is where you must make a stand. And Freud, he knew he was being quite risky. He was taking quite a risk in a Christian society as this mad Jew who was talking about the death of Christianity, or religion is a mental illness because of our sexual torture of the past, because the Oedipus complex leading to religious passion. I do believe that all of them had access to bits of the truth, and like the elephant, were not able to see the entire elephant from an observer status. They were up close with the patient and touching it along with the patient and trying to figure out what it was. But they didn't have this psychedelic vision of transcendence, ascendance, or access to the metaphysical world to be able to see it globally, to have a global vision of it. And this is where a lot of them failed, and for thousands of years since Plato have been firing shots in the dark. Whereas Terence McKenna, in his short life, 60 years, was able to see and describe things in such a powerful way that has rarely been done before, and was one of the forces even behind my speaking was Terence McKenna. The power that he was able to unleash through his words, through his vision, was just astounding. I mean, I had read thousands of books before that, and had been influenced by philosophers, historians, and warlords, and Hitler, and Stalin, and all those guys. But here was Terence McKenna tearing through Marxism, capitalism, all the isms, Islamism, racism, sexism. It's all bullshit. They only exist in your mind. They don't really exist. You make them exist, just like your God. The minute you let them go, you are free from those shackles. That is something to really think about.